This is such the most brilliant invention. If you put your glasses in the same place every time, you can find them when you need them. Amazing. Okay, so if you go to Canvas, okay, and I want to show you this, and if I go to your class, there is something on here called chat. I don't know how well this works from phone. Hey, look at that. Okay, so 2 people have tried this already back at the beginning, okay? And now their phone number's on YouTube. Oh well. So, but what we can do is I can put up the live recording and I can have this sitting on my Chromebook and you can ask me questions as we're going through the recording if you want to do that. You can use it if you want to. I have to assume that you don't have a computer at home. That's how I'm approaching doing the live stream and the way class is going to work. So everything that I'll do, you'll be able to do from your phone. It'll suck if you're doing it on your phone, but you theoretically can. So if they close campus, which I think they will, then I'll put everything up on YouTube. It'll be on my YouTube channel, and I'll probably send out a private link so that I can actually play some videos and they won't get pulled down for copyright infringements, or I'll post the links I can edit in the studio and move along and then post links where the videos would be to watch some certain videos. Okay? So how are we going to do attendance and that kind of stuff? Because there's no way for me to log into the chat and count everybody who's here. So I'm going to start having a discussion board. Anybody use the discussion board in here? Yeah, discussion boards kind of suck, but they work really well on your phone. Bless you. Okay, and so if you go to discussions, right here. Okay, well there's one assignment, but I haven't given that out yet. But whatever. Okay, but then there will be a discussion up here, and I'll have the date on it. And I'll post some questions for you to ask, or for you to ask questions about whatever content that we're talking about. And that's how we actually have kind of class. So the YouTube video, there'll be discussion, and then the chat if you want to ask questions while I'm doing the live stream. And I guarantee that my son will poke his head in the live stream occasionally and go, "Bleh!" and then run away. Or right now, he sounds like a 50-year-old smoker guy. Wait, I'm a 50-year-old, but I don't smoke. 80-year-old smoker guy. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. So, what if this becomes too hard for you? What do we do? Just quit, man. No. Okay, so that actually works really well with what we want to talk about today. Wait for it. Okay, that was my yesterday's class. This is y'all. Okay. So in here, what determines whether you are successful or not? Grades are our measure. Okay? Went through that. But so what determines whether you are successful or not? Oh, now you get your notebooks out. See? I had a professor at college that would get so upset. What was his name? It was, I can remember, J.P. Cadwallader Hobbs III. Ha! That was an old node. Whew! Haven't got that one back in a long time. Dr. Hobbs was a political science instructor. He would have his TA come into class to make sure that the students weren't irritating before he came into class. He's a political science instructor, taught intro to political science. All students have to take it. He hated teaching the intro course because he didn't want people who weren't serious in his class. So if anybody rustled their notebook, he would start shouting at the class how awful they were. It was very entertaining. Can you pull that door closed? Thanks. Two-step process. Okay. So Anyway, what makes you successful? It turns out it's not your intelligence, the ability to understand something, that makes you successful. Okay, so the key thing that makes you successful is how well you follow the stupid formula. I'm gonna keep writing the stupid formula up here because this is the key to understanding this whole unit. Whoa, that's cool. So, how do you define success? Whenever you try to study this, you have to define a behavior. So what is success? But that's not defining it. That's just rewording it. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like one of the things that okay, let me use this as an example. Why did I've got like 6 of these now. People keep buying them for me. What's the name of the bicycle on this shirt? Anybody remember? Rusty. Useless information. Excellent node characteristics. How do you know the name of this bicycle is Rusty? I told you yesterday, or last class, or 2 classes ago, or probably lots of times, because I like Rusty. Rusty is one of my favorite bicycles. I got to ride it this weekend. Okay? There's Rusty sitting on top of the car when I first got her. Isn't she beautiful? Okay? And so, why is Rusty the perfect bicycle? What's the key term? Oh, it has a great soul. But why is it the perfect bicycle? It's a terrible bicycle. But why is it perfect? Did we use this term yet? Yeah, it's the exemplar. It defines what a bicycle is. Period. It's the exemplar. It hits every single node that defines what a bicycle is. It's the easiest kind of bicycle to remember because there's a million different little nodes associated with it. However, the name Rusty is a new bit of information that doesn't have an exemplar. There's a kid named Rusty. I remember Rusty in my elementary school class. I wonder what he's doing now. His dad had bipolar disorder. His dad was an amazing woodworker and an incredible artist, but he had bipolar. So periodically, Rusty would come to school very hungry and very disheveled looking as a child because his dad was either off on a manic episode or stuck in his room in a depressive episode. So periodically, Rusty came to school a couple times with no shoes on. Okay? And so when Rusty would come to school, Rusty would come to school, he called himself Russ when he got to high school, just for the record. But it was like the teachers just had a pair of extra shoes waiting for him if he came to school without shoes. Every so often, one of the PE teachers would take him aside and say, "Why don't you go take a shower?" And one time he said, "Hey, my tan's coming off." Dirt. Okay? But anyway, so if I have the term Rusty, are there other nodes associated with it? Can you picture what Rusty's hair looked like? You don't even know what he is, anything about him. But can you picture what his hair looks like? You can have an idea, where does that node get triggered from? You have an exemplar of a dirty-looking kid somewhere in your head. And you can picture what a dirty-looking kid looks like. Now, every single one of you can create a different image in your head. Hey, we have that same umbrella. My wife is using it today. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. So, every single one of you has a different exemplar of what you think a dirty-looking kid looks like. But where does that exist from? Experience. It exists from your experience. Okay, so now we go back to the main point. How do you define whether you are successful or not? What does the concept of being successful mean? That's what I heard. Okay, so if a success is a reward, that is extrinsic. Okay, it's a reward from something. That's the next thing. So extrinsic is a reward from something. So, like if anybody has a job they don't like in here, I don't. I like my job. Okay, what is your job that you don't like? Ew, people are gross. Yeah. Do you have to? Are you the poor that? Are you like the cheese scooper person? Yeah. Good work. Yeah. I'm sorry. Every time my son eats movie popcorn, he barfs, but he still loves it. Whatever. Okay. So, if you don't like your job, why do you go? The reward from going is they give you money. And the nice thing about a movie job is that it really doesn't require much thinking. You can go to work, shut off consciousness, do your job. People yell at you and you just blink at them. And then you walk home and is your life better that you went there? Yes. You get a reward. What happens if they stop paying you? You stop going to work because the extrinsic reward is what is motivating the behavior. Okay, so now, intrinsic behavior. Intrinsic reinforcement is, and I want to explain this before you really write it down. What is the reward for something that is intrinsic? Just doing it itself becomes rewarding. It's like some of you in here, I can tell that you actually like this stuff. Some of you are here for extrinsic reasons. Okay, for a lot of people, this class represents a checkbox. Check. Introduction to Psych. Area C or D. I can't remember. I should know that. Okay? But at the same time, does that matter whether you are here for a checkbox or here because you really like this stuff? Does it matter? Some of my best students in my online class are nursing students. They're taking my online developmental psych course as a checkbox for their nursing degrees. They are awesome. Do they care about the class? What do they care about? Their grade. Nursing programs are very competitive to get into. And as a result, you have to maintain a 4.0 in order to get into a good nursing program. So all the nursing majors are like, rah, and going full speed. I have a couple of my psych majors from our psychology club in there. And it's funny because they'll like half-ass a couple assignments. Not because they don't care, but they're doing it because they really like the material. And when they get busy and other things get in the way, they kind of let the class slide a little bit because they're doing it because they like it, not because they have to. And so I get, my psych majors don't do as well as the nursing majors. How does that make sense? How do you follow, which reward do you follow? How do you decide where your motivation comes from? It's always both. Most freshmen don't really pay that much attention to their GPA. When should you pay attention to your GPA? Your first step in college. It's really hard to overcome a 5-unit C+. Good morning. I took German at San Diego State because I tried to get into Spanish. It was full. I got into French. That was stupid. Well, I took French because I took French in high school. I'm like, yeah, I got this. The first day of class, they're talking about stuff we did by end of my 3rd year in French in high school. The first day was at the end. I'm like, oh, no. I didn't have my vocabulary down. Everybody's speaking French around me. I'm like, I'm screwed. So I went to try to get another language class. The only one that was open, German. 3 semesters, C unit, 5-unit C pluses, San Diego State. Ouch. What does that do to your GPA? Tanks it pretty hard. You have to have 2 classes with A's just to bring that up. And Dr. Powlin, the professor that I had, he was super nice. I should have gotten a legitimate C, but why did he give me a C+? He liked me. I was there every class. I never missed class. I'd always participate. And so he liked me. But he goes, you're really not good at this. Shut up. Okay. He was cool. He was like from Transylvania. So he's like this tall, like looked like Dracula kind of guy. With the cool accent and everything. He was, okay. And he'd laugh and he'd go, that's what, because he'd make little jokes. And all the students are like, crazy old man. Okay. I like crazy old men. I am going to be one any minute now. So now, right there. So if you have a job that's intrinsically motivating, why do you do it? Well, when do you get reinforced for doing the job that you like to do? As you do the job, you get the reinforcement. So why do I have so many stupid bicycles? It's intrinsic. That's one of my most exciting things. If they close campus down. I've got 3 bicycle projects that need time to finish. I got all the parts. All I need is time. Hey, if they close campus, I'll have time. So the first thing I'll be doing is sitting out in the bike shed, isolating myself to not infect anybody. And I also have some fishing stuff I need to take care of I got a lot of cool projects. So I need to go to Home Depot and get a bunch of wood, and then I can start fixing stuff around the house. And it's going to be way too busy. I'd rather be here. But why would I do the bike shed stuff before I fix the wood on the deck that needs to be replaced? The motivation is to do the things that are rewarding. And what gets rewarded faster, intrinsic or extrinsic? Intrinsic gets rewarded faster. Now, there's a problem though. What if you just went with your intrinsic motivation? And sleeping a lot. Well, anyway. And what about a drug like amphetamines or a drug like Percocet or Vicodin or any of the opiates? Did they become intrinsically motivating? For some people, yes. We have a really good friend of ours that's suffering with alcoholism right now. And she had recovered for quite a while, but now she is back drinking heavily again. And it's really hard to see from someone outside's perspective how this happens. Because you say, wow, everything was going good for you. Why are you drinking now? But why do people go back to their substance? The substance becomes intrinsically rewarding. We use the word habit. A habit is where you do something that just is rewarding. That's why the biggest problem with me, and that's why I'm worried about this, is I'm a constant face toucher. I pick at my beard all the time. And that's why I keep it trimmed, because otherwise it'll stick straight out because I'm sitting here doing this all the time. I just did it. Okay? And it's like, and it's very satisfying to touch your face for me. Scratching my nose, scratching my ears. My kid's the same way. So why do you think my son gets sick all the time? He's constantly rubbing his eyes when he's tired, like you just did. Okay, so now people call, okay, sorry. So the thing about this intrinsic motivation is that you have to balance intrinsic versus extrinsic. You have to balance your motivation. Because if you don't balance your motivation, you start losing something. If you're only doing things that you find personally rewarding, people call you a narcissist. If you're only doing things that are completely personally rewarding, what happens to your role in society? You don't help the world around you. Okay, so now, when you try to remember something, okay, what do you actually remember? Do you remember the actual thing, or do you remember the association? The association. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind, because as you remember things, did we go through the different stages of memory yet? Short-term, long-term, did we go through that? Oh, there it is. We did. Okay? So how long do these nodes last? They initially get activated. They last as long as you pay attention. That's your short-term memory. Good morning. Once they stop being activated, unless there's a strong association, what happens to the nodes? They fade away. They literally fade away. And it's actually called a forgetting function. It's a forgetting function. If you learn something and then I ask you the next day and see how much you remember, I ask you in 4 days, see how much you remember, guess what happens? Boo. You forget. Do you think this is normal, or is this strange? It's normal. Everybody forgets stuff. Unless it has a meaningful association, your brain just goes, forget about it. So why do I remember lots of useless facts and figures and data and things? My brain automatically associates everything with everything. Well, that's a problem. That's called attention deficit. Not problem. Problem? No. Fine. What? Hi. It's a problem because it's hard for me to stay on task, because what happens? I get distracted. Things have purpose and meaning for me. And because things have purpose and meaning for me, I remember lots of useless stuff. My father-in-law, scratching my nose, my father-in-law gets really pissed at me that I don't know who fill-in quarterback name is here. I don't watch sports. I like sports, but how come I don't watch sports? I love watching basketball. How come I don't? There's more intrinsically rewarding things that I can do rather than sit down and watch a basketball game. Watching a basketball game is not intrinsically rewarding for me. I enjoy it while I'm doing it, but if I'm going to sit down and watch a basketball game, I'm going to go out to the bike shed and play with the bike shed. So I have two competing behaviors. Now we're starting to get to your thing. Your goal. What's a goal? It's hard because, well, you have to have goals in life. Well, one of my goals before I turn 50, I'm trying to get actually abdominal muscles. I have lots of abdominal muscles. My abs are very strong, but they're covered into a nice insulated layer of dad bod. Yes. So I am trying really hard, maintaining a super strict diet, being very careful with everything I eat, doing lots of exercise to try to actually have abdominal muscles. I know it's kind of futile because when I was at San Diego State, I weighed about 280 pounds with 8% body fat. I didn't have abs then. So what's the probability of me actually having abs when I turn 50? I would say less than that. Because they're under a good amount of fat, and I'd probably have to go slightly anorexic cray-cray to really get down enough to go. But is that healthy? No, and health is my number one goal, not abs. But why do I set the goal for abs? Well, it's not intrinsic at all. I really don't care. But it's just something that my son challenged me to do, and so that's extrinsic. He goes, "Dad, your flab is looking great." Abs or flab, singular, plural. Ab. Yeah, your ab. You know, people have a six-pack. I got the party bowl. Years ago, they used to sell these round plastic balls that looked like, it was like a pony keg, but it was plastic, and so it was called a party ball. You buy in a little box, like a box of wine, but it's a box of beer. They stopped selling them because kids were abusing that. Weird. Okay, moving on. Actually, they might still sell it. I haven't bothered to look because I don't consume that much alcohol anymore. So I want to give you a story of a guy named David Detweiler. David Detweiler is one of my good friends. Actually, I haven't talked to him in about 2 or 3 years because he moved up north because he's fancy like that. And so we just don't hang out anymore. But Detweiler used to work here. He was a Spanish teacher. He then got a job at Miracosta College. Miracosta College is the highest paid community college in the United States. If I were to work there, I would make $30,000 more a year teaching 5 less classes a year than I teach now. So that would be me working 1 semester making 30 grand more a year. Whoa. So I got to second interviews, but I didn't get hired because I didn't have enough diversity training. I do now, waiting for a job. But, so, sorry guys, bye. 30 grand a year? That's a big step. Wait, that was back in 2006. I can't imagine, 2007. Can't imagine what that would be now. But they have Rancho Santa Fe as their tax base, and they own a bunch of land in San Elijo. So they get the revenue from the land. They can pay their instructors whatever they want. Moving on. So let me tell you Detweiler's story. He is a red-haired kid from Wisconsin, I think, or Minnesota. I don't know. One of the two. They're the same to me. Okay? He's something squeaky out there. Oil the damn wheel on your little suitcase. Okay, sorry. So now, it's going to kill me. Oh, they're laying cable underneath the thing, and that's the cable wheel. I like this better. I think that's funnier. Okay. Works really well in the live stream. So, Dr. Detweiler, has he gone far in school? Yeah. University of Wisconsin, senior in high school, opened the college catalog, started going through all the majors with a marker and counting the number of units. He circled the one with the lowest number of units and said, "That's my major." It happened to be Spanish. Red-haired kid, Wisconsin, never spoke Spanish a day in his life, majored in Spanish because lowest number of units needed to graduate. Graduated in 3 years. Okay, he put 177% effort into it. I'm lying, he only can put 100% effort. He put all of his effort into it and got straight A's all the way through his college and was very fluent in Spanish by the time he finished. When he finished, he looked at the college catalogs for a bunch of different universities and found a doctoral program that would pay him to go to school. University of Alaska. You think there's a lot of Spanish majors at University of Alaska? No. So he went to University of Alaska. He's a Wisconsin guy. He likes hunting and fishing, and this is perfect. And they're like, when he gets there as a doctoral candidate, they're like, "Thank you. Someone's enrolling in our program." So they paid him to go to school. His second semester in Alaska, he spent a semester in Spain. Met some very attractive Spanish girl, married her, came back, and they had a long, happy relationship until they didn't. But that's not important. But they have a wonderful little daughter who's probably older than y'all now. I'm thinking about it. And then he got this job because he learned how to teach Spanish when he was over in Spain, and now he came here and got a job here. Why did he become a professor of Spanish? It was the cheapest way for him to go through school. But why did he get a job at Miracosta? He's following the paycheck. And when we were sitting in the final interviews for when I was at final interview there at Miracosta, the president of the college saying, okay, so why do you want to leave Cuyamaca? And I said, I don't. Well, should you lie in an interview? No. You have to be your own intrinsic self. If you are your real self, you're more likely to get the job. If you lie to get a job, what will happen to that job? You won't like it as much. Because according to this guy named Maslow, you have a true self. Yeah. I can't spell it now, thanks. I just said it when I'll spell it now. Self-actualization means, basically, your true self. Yeah, that's where we're going. So the idea of the true self, your self-actualization, is if you're honest with yourself and you follow what you really believe, you will be happier. Like Judy up in our copy room, we were talking about some stuff this morning. She doesn't hold her opinion back. I do not agree with her opinion on a lot of things. Okay, but at the same time she stays true to herself. I stay true to myself. Good morning. And because we both stay true to ourselves, we can have a very good argument about whatever it is, mostly political things, but at the same time is that we still respect and like each other because we're staying true to ourselves. We both have different opinions and different ideas, but at the same time is we're not attacking each other's ideas. We're sharing our ideas to the person. And she's always very helpful and very nice and very polite. And I respect her as a person, just I don't agree with her political views. That's what our argument was this morning. Okay, she goes, you haven't gone online yet? No, that was the first thing she said to me this morning. Okay, so there's this idea of your true self. This is intrinsic. Good morning. This is intrinsic. It just made me laugh because last semester, one of my students always came in like 5 minutes late, and I said good morning to everybody who came in late, but I seemed to miss him because he'd always come in right as I was starting, so I'd never said good morning to him. And so one morning he came in late and he goes, you never say good morning to me. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. And then, so that's why I make sure I say good morning to everybody who walks in, just because I don't want to be feeling left out. Anyway, so wait a second though. What if you are extrinsically motivated to become a college professor to make more money? Detweiler's very good at his job and he really likes his job. Detweiler, the reason I use him as a great example is he doesn't care. So what he does is he puts his 100% effort into everything that he does. He becomes, whatever is extrinsically motivating, he shifts his intrinsic motivation to be that. I think that's probably the cause of his divorce. Just saying. Because, just as a hint. Anyway, but we took him mountain biking. He'd never been mountain biking before. He's a very outdoorsy guy. He goes, I'd like to go mountain biking. And so we took him up Cowles Mountain. First time ever on a mountain bike, we rode up Cowles Mountain. And anybody go up the backside in the road on Cowles Mountain? It's pretty much walking up a steep cliff. And on a mountain bike, you're basically it's called treading road. You're just pedaling really slowly going up the side of the stupid mountain. There's a trail, if you are like hiking, that goes down into Santee. And every about 6 feet across the trail, there's a giant railroad tie. So you have to kind of down the trail to make it all the way down. He has never ridden a mountain bike in his life, and this is where we decided to take him. Just to be an ass, actually, because it was funny. He gets to the bottom. He's not dirty. He has not crashed. His bike is in one piece. And he goes, whoo, that was hard. How on earth was he successful? He puts his 100% effort into whatever he does. He immediately becomes intrinsically motivated to do whatever he's doing and works really hard at it. So he concentrated the entire way and didn't get frustrated, didn't get upset, just kept going. And he was super successful. Is he normal? No. He's not normal, but that's one of the reasons why he is super successful. Is because he does put 100% effort into everything he's doing. Everything that if he needs a reward, he puts his whole self into it. Again, that's a unique kind of person. Most of us have to balance the things that we want and the things that we have to get. So we start out, Maslow, back in the 70s when a lot of this stuff was really developed, everybody was into these triangle theories. There's all these theories with triangles in them. Because it's like, yeah, it's where you focus yourself, man. Okay, don't start wearing pyramids on your head yet. Okay, so what's the basic bottom of this? What is the basic bottom needs that you have? Yeah, things like oxygen. The annoying psychologists that work at Guantanamo Bay, they drowned people, called waterboarding. They basically get them to the point where they're panicking that they're not going to breathe and then let them breathe. It's awful. Has anybody ever watched Scandal? A little, yeah, I don't like that show. Okay, it's basically, it's Olivia Pope. She's a control freak, I don't know. She's a lawyerish type person that goes around and slowly manipulates the government. And it's actually not nearly as bad as the government. Never mind. So, but basically there's this group by Olivia's dad who, that basically runs the government from behind the scenes. That's the highlight of the show. And there's a lot of torturing in it, and it's awful. But they're torturing one guy in the show, and they're pouring water in his mouth, and then just letting him sit there with water in his mouth and not letting him breathe for a long period of time. Then they let him cough and breathe. Then they ask him questions. And then they torture him, and then it's awful. Don't watch torture program. But why deprive someone of oxygen? You need oxygen. Has anybody here ever had a panic attack? That's what it feels like. That is your brain at the basic level of anxiety and fear. So when you have a panic attack, that is your brain saying you are dying. It's the strongest emotion that humans produce, that panic. And it's awful because it feels like you can't breathe. Just for the record, you're breathing fine. However, your brain says you're dying. So one of the things you can do is breathe into a paper bag. What does breathing into a paper bag do for your panic attack? Aside from make you look stupid around people around you? It lowers oxygen. When you lower your oxygen level of your respirations slow down. So when your oxygen levels go down, you take longer, slower breaths. And that slowing of your breath actually causes your brain to say, oh, you're not panicking. I had a student have a panic attack when I was a high school teacher. And she's sitting there I had this like Papazan chair in my high school classroom. And she sat there and she started having a panic attack. And I go, okay, you need to take a breath. She goes, take a breath. Like, that's not a breath. That's a squeaking sound. How come she couldn't take a deep breath? Because the panic was causing when you panic, it's a drowning response. And so in a drowning situation, you're not supposed to take a deep breath. What causes people to die when they fall in really cold water is the fact that you can't breathe. Your heart rate goes way up really fast. And as a result, you have to breathe a lot. Has anybody ever swam in really cold water before? You know what it's like. You jump in, you're like, you try to like get a stroke in, you're like, and you're trying to breathe. You have to breathe like on every stroke or keep your head up for a little while until you get warmed up and then you can breathe. We used to do triathlons and it was so fun to go swimming in Mission Bay first thing in the morning. Like early in the morning, bless you. Okay? And you're got a good zone around you, okay. Now, but when you go try to take a couple breaths in that first jump in the water, whew, you can't breathe. That's what the drowning response is. You can't get that deep breath. Okay, so now, there's other basic needs, but the one that's right above it is safety. I'm going to put water here, food. Sadly, a lot of drugs like amphetamines and opiates hit this bottom level of the pyramid. The need for the drug becomes biological. And when the need for the drug becomes biological, it is extremely hard to break that cycle. Well, withdrawals are the physiological need for the substance. And the problem with opiates specifically is that they block pain. So what happens when you're withdrawing from it? Pain. So if you get used to them blocking the pain, the withdrawal is significant amounts of pain. A lot of people who, if you take opiates for more than 2 or 3 days, when you stop taking them, it feels like you have the flu. You know, that kind of body ache? That's just you feeling the way your body is. But you feel it as pain. Yuck. Okay, so most of us in our situation, actually right now, a lot of us are afraid of safety because of the virus stuff. And when you're afraid of safety, can you really think about your true self and your goals in life? No, you think about now, what's happening right now. What am I doing now to be safe? And as a result, it's hard to be self-actualized. It's hard to find your true self when you're worried about being safe. But if we didn't have a pandemic right now, we would be focusing on this. It's called belonging. Belonging is what we call a psychological need. It's a psychological need. A psychological need is things that we feel that we need. And by the way, they're just as real as biological needs. So, belongingness. How do you know you belong? Ooh, acceptance. Careful with acceptance. Is there intrinsic acceptance and extrinsic acceptance? So when you're with a group of people, if I'm hanging out with a group of faculty members, I can extrinsically be accepted by them because of I'm an academic and I understand their academics. But who do I like to hang out with? A lot of bicycle people I'm not the most hip with. I like people who collect old crap bicycles. There's a lot of people who are bicyclists that really want the fanciest, newest, shiniest of everything. I don't like those people. They're not my people. But on campus, if I hang out with the other psych professor or the Soc professors, why do I get along really well with them? Not the same view. We view the world differently. Dr. Salazar is very fancy and she does everything right. I'm a slob and do everything wrong. But at the same time, as we speak the same language, we both really like the same thing. Because we like the same thing, we both really enjoy the study of psychology. We just had this discussion on Monday. We both teach this class. She starts the semester with this. This is how she starts her class, with motivation and goals and searching for self. I talk about it now at the end of learning, because you'll see why. We'll get there in just a few minutes. But at the same time, is that we can both disagree on the way we teach it, but can we talk about it in a very easy way? Yeah, because we speak the same language. As a result, it's intrinsically easier to belong with Dr. Salazar and I. But at the same time, is extrinsically, I can hang with other faculty, but why am I with the other faculty? Is it because I relate to them or because we have the same job? We have the same job. We experience a lot of the same students. So we have a lot to share externally, but internally we don't have a lot to share. And so, like, I'm helping a bunch of faculty. A lot of faculty have had their head in the sand about learning to teach online. Oh, do you have one? Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I've been teaching online since 2003. I got this. No problem. Okay? And a lot of my friends who are older faculty refused I don't want to learn to teach online. I don't believe it's good education. Okay, you're going to have to move your classes online. But I don't know how to do that. Because extrinsically, why should you learn to teach online? You can teach extra classes over the summer and still go skiing. Mammoth was open last summer. Okay, all right, we're going to go fly fishing, but that's not important. All I need is my Chromebook, a portable battery, and my phone. Good. Okay, anyway, so belongingness, this is where most of your motivation is right now. This is where most of your motivation is, yeah.
So you talked about how like high school students like judgments a lot. Is that because of like that part of things?
High school is a lot of extrinsic. Your true self kind of goes quiet in high school. Your true self kind of forms itself into a little crystalline ball, and then all your self is defined by the people around you. It's until your prefrontal cortex comes online. Your prefrontal cortex is your choice of behavior. Until that part fully comes online, it's really hard to choose behavior. We had this discussion last night. My wife had a board meeting up at their school, so she didn't get home till like 9:30 last night. So my daughter and I were just sitting on the couch talking about crap. And I'm like, she doesn't have a lot of friends in high school. And the reason is because a lot of the kids that she grew up with are doing stuff that she doesn't like. Most of them are vaping. A lot of them are sneaking off and drinking. A lot of them are doing stuff that she doesn't like because we don't do that stuff. And because we don't do that stuff, she goes, I don't like that stuff. Cody, her boyfriend, doesn't do that stuff. Okay? And as a result, she doesn't feel like she belongs with those people in high school. She has 3 or 4 people from her volleyball team that she hangs out with. They don't do that stuff. So intrinsically, she's hanging out with people she likes to hang out with that don't make her feel uncomfortable. A bunch of the neighbor kids tried to get her to drive to go over someone's house because their parents weren't home, and they wanted to go to their house and drink and ask my daughter to drive them over there. That's because my daughter has a car and a license. And my daughter said, no, it's not right. Okay, sorry. But at the same time is that then all of a sudden the neighbor kids stopped inviting her to stuff, and they basically shunned her. Because that's what high school kids do. Because the way that a lot of high school kids operate is extrinsic. We reward each other by being a part of the group. We shun the people, we punish the people who aren't a part of the group. And that's what these little cliques form. And there's some really funny pictures of, if you find my high school yearbook somewhere in my office, there's some really funny pictures of the different little cliques in the high school. Because one of the pages that the people in the high school did was the cliques. And they took pictures of each of the little cliques in the high school. And are the people proud of their cliques? Yes, the skater kids are very proud to be the skater kids. Do they play the skater kid role? We didn't have skater kids in Vermont because there's no concrete, so it's really hard to skateboard. Just saying. Okay? But we had the punk kids. Back in the 80s, we had a lot of punk kids. The real punks that were poking holes in their nose with the safety pins and wearing the safety pin through their nose. Not this Parkway Plaza punk thing that generated in the 90s. Okay. The Christian punks. What is that? Okay, sorry. But these are real self-deprecating and self-loathing people. This really good, solid punk. Anyway, I was torn between the jocks, the farm kids, because I was raised on a farm, and the preppies. It was a tough call. And I was also in orchestra and band. Yeah. So where did I fit? Nowhere. So my buddies and I formed our group called the All Out Geek Group because we don't fit in any of the groups, so what do? We formed a group. Then they all started smoking pot in their junior year, so I stopped hanging out with them because I don't do that crap. Okay, and so it's funny because your belongingness in high school shifts. The best thing is when you get here, what can you start to do? You self-identify. You meet people that are like you. You meet people that are different than you. A lot of cultures like to hang out with their own culture because it's easy. It's easy. You speak the same language. It can be literally the same language, but it's also you speak the same culture. Certain things are okay, certain things are not okay. Because I was probably raised by my mom, and probably because I grew up and my whole adult life I've been studying psychology. Psychology is mostly women. I am much more of a feminist than I am a male chauvinist. But if you grow up in a culture with lots of males, like the construction workers when they built the E building over here, would all sit in the morning and watch all the girls walk up from campus, and they had scorecards once. Then they had to go through a week of sensitivity training, and it was pretty funny. But why? Hey, that's a 7. Don't shake it, baby. Okay, it's like, who does that? Well, a group of men that are around men all the time, each one tries to outman the other man. What happens? It's very offensive when you're outside of that group. When you're in that group, it's normal. Hopefully none of you have had to have this experience. I roomed with football players at San Diego State. Bonner and John, and I can't remember the other guy with the dark hair. I can't remember his name. But they would walk by, and I apologize in advance, and pull across their shorts so their genitals were hanging out going blah, 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 all the time. Like, I don't need to see that. Put that away. I felt uncomfortable all the time at home. But for them, in the locker room, is that normal thing to do? Yes. And that's because, ugh, don't need to see that. The blah, blah, blah sound is just haunting. Okay. So, John got nominated for Teacher of the Year a couple of years ago. We went to the ceremony, and he walks up there, and I'm like, my head goes, because I could just see him in class. No, don't. Okay. Moving on. So, what's on top of belongingness? This is where your struggling is now, by the way. This is where you are in yourself. Most of you. Some of you have transcended belongingness. What's next?
I always have a gap between.
Aha, so there's an empty node. Okay, so you took the AP class? Or, yeah. Yeah, so the AP Psych does a really good job of explaining a lot of these core theories. And that's why I really like that you know a lot of the stuff. So, when you so the next step up is really important. Respect. So, what does respect mean? I don't know why I said it like that. That was weird. What does respect mean? When you respect someone, what does that mean you do? Yeah. You can understand someone and not respect them. But you can be cordial to people you don't like. It's called working as a service community.
Do you see similar views that are good views?
I respect Judy. I do not agree with her views at all.
You value the person, what they have to say.
Okay, so, but that's, to me, when you say you value the person, that doesn't have a behavior associated with it, by valuing the person. And this is the annoying part about psychology. We have to define this in a way that is measurable. Okay, so one of the ways that you talk about respect is this word. When you respect someone, you trust them. So when you trust somebody, you can predict how they are going to act. That's giving somebody respect. So there's respect comes, I wrote trust on extrinsic because when somebody trusts you, they are giving you respect. When someone doesn't trust you, you are. What are you telling the person if you don't trust them? I wouldn't go right to the liar. No, but you can say if the person lies to you a lot, what happens to your respect for them? It goes down because you can't trust what they're saying is true. Yeah.
For example, like you could respect somebody like Michael Jordan, respect him for his athletic ability, but you don't know.
But you trust his athletic ability.
Yeah.
So what you say, like, so my son he watched Space Jam a bunch of times. Okay, it's a great movie. Okay, I'm not sure about the remake, but whatever. But have they made that yet, or are they making it? I know LeBron's in it, but I don't know if they've actually finished it or not. But so he understands Michael Jordan was an awesome player. Michael Jordan was an awesome player, but how would he do now? Not great. Steph Curry is way better than Jordan ever was. Oh, I saw some bad. Now, and the reason is because when Jordan was amazing, I grew up watching him. I'm not going to say anything bad about him, but someone like LeBron James. What is the difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron James? No. LeBron's bigger. He's just bigger. And LeBron is awesome. Like, if anybody ever watched the old, there's a really great show on ESPN called 30 for 30. There's an episode against the Lakers versus the Celtics battle. And Larry Bird, who's not your epitome of awesome athlete. He's lopey, he's awkward, he's uglier than hell. And he looks right at one of the players from the Lakers. He goes, I'm going to fake to the basket. I'm going to go to the three-pointer line. He's going to pass me the ball. I'm going to shoot the ball. I'm going to win the game. And there's nothing you can do about it. Right to his face. The defender's like, okay, bring it on. Larry goes to the basket. The guy fakes, runs to the three-pointer line, shoot, three-point, wins the game. Larry walks by and goes, okay, that, to me, that is, why did Larry Bird do that? No. Does he trust himself? Those guys, a lot of the professional athletes really do trust themselves. Why do they sound like they're extremely arrogant at sometimes? They're very, very confident in themselves. I mean, when we were kids watching Michael Jordan, it was so fun to watch him play. He would do stuff that no one had done yet. But because a lot of the kids grew up watching him, what happened? A lot of the kids now used him as a role model, and now a lot of the kids are better than him. So I didn't want to disrespect at all for Michael Jordan because he's awesome. But do you see what I'm saying? They used what he did and he invented, but he perfected, and now people are just amazing. I miss the big dunks, though, from the three-point line. Remember back in the old days, the guys would jump off from like the top of the key and like, we just don't get that anymore. Miss it. Okay, so again, getting back to this idea of self-respect, I'm going to write this other word up here. Esteem. Where do you get your self-esteem from? Same thing, self-respect. Does our current president have a lot of self-esteem? Yes, he does. He has a tremendous amount of self-esteem. Why? Of doing what? Why can he do whatever he wants? No. People don't let him. Oh, people try. And the main reason is because he surrounds himself with people who tell him he's awesome. What does he do with anybody who argues with him? You're fired. Well, and this is something this is the way that he does things. He has done this thing ever since he was back in, was it Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone 2? He played the rich billionaire. Oh, wow, weird. He acts exactly the same in that movie as he does now. He is very true to himself. He has exactly the same self he's always had. He isn't a different person. That's the person that people elected were that. Some people see that as being a strong leader because
He doesn't pull himself.
he bullies his way through stuff. No, but some people see that and respect that as a strong leader. And especially if you are older and more masculine, that is the kind of leader that you expect to see. I know you crinkle your nose, but you're young and academic. And we're overeducated, according to the NRA. All those overeducated liberals. And that was a statement, and it was funny. Overeducated means you think too much. But at the same time, if you are true to the way that you think and are true to the way that you feel, who respects you? The people who think like you also respect you. So what happens is this is where we're going to go after the break, is we're going to start talking about things called groups. How do you form groups? How do you find belongingness? People who speak the same language that you do. Like-minded. Language is a way of thinking about your thoughts. And you can agree with some things about some people and extrinsically deal with the way that they are, and you can interact with people that you don't necessarily intrinsically like, but at the same time, you can still be with them because they do speak the same language, but it doesn't necessarily fulfill your sense of self. That's the really fun thing about college, is that, well, going back, when you're a kid, back in Vermont, there's these people called townies. My cousins are townies. Anybody know what a townie is? Who stay where they live. My cousins live on the farm that we grew up on. Kind of weird, but my cousin Todd, his ex-wife April, and kids live in grandparents' house. Todd renovated a part of the barn, and he lives in a part of the barn. He rents out the other part of the barn as a storage place where people can store their boats and stuff inside in the wintertime. And so he made an apartment there where he lives with his new wife now. It's a really nice apartment. And my cousin Jeff lives in a trailer on the farm, and he's renovating great-grandma's house that was built in 17-something. And that's what he does for a living, is he's renovating this old house for the Historical Society. But they live half a mile from where they grew up. Why do they live a half a mile from where they grew up? That's their space. That's their town. That's their people. Why did I come to California? The furthest point in the continental United States I could get from there. I guess I could go to San Ysidro. That would be a little bit further. But at the same time is that I did not identify with that space. So why did I come out here? To try to find my people, my tribe, to try to find my belongingness. Why did I tell the president of MiraCosta College I don't want to leave Cuyamaca? I like Cuyamaca. I like this space. Intrinsically, this space fits the way that I am. And because it fits the way that I am, it's easy. And what's cool about this is that it leads you to identifying your true self. Like, I'm very excited, and nobody seems to care, but this is a really important thing for me. I have right in here, which I don't have my glasses on, so I can't tell you exactly which one, but one of these is a key to my lab. I got an official lab space. So, that's huge! It is, yay! Okay, nobody cares. But I told my wife, and she's like, so? Like, well, my son got it, okay? But what that means is that in my little college life, in my little true identifying self, is when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a research scientist. And so now I need I got my lab coat. I've got a lot of electronic equipment. I got a lot of computers. I need test tubes and a skeleton. You know, the skeleton sitting in the corner. No reason other than to have one sitting in the corner. So if there's one missing from biology, I didn't do it. Not that I'm recording, so I'm fine. Anyway, but again, so do I have this long-term goal in my life? I know as soon as I go unlock that door, I'll probably get the virus and die because I'm like, oh, cool. Because, wait, do you ever reach? Sorry, that's kind of morbid. But do you reach? Well, you can use me as a skeleton. That'll be fine. Okay. So, do you ever reach your true goal? This is not something that you achieve. It's something you're motivated to. This is motivation, not goals. It's motivation to get there. So you all have this ultimate self, but will your ultimate self change? Yeah, getting a community college teaching job is very hard. When I got this job, I'm like, this is awesome. 2001, I am stoked. I am super happy. And then my wife goes, let's start having a family. And my brain goes, I know how to do that. Okay. The process is kind of entertaining. So then, after having babies and things, we realized that kids are a lot of freaking work. So my self-actualization changed from being college professor to dad, and now my kids are getting a little bit more independent, so what am I doing? I'm now drifting back toward my college professor goals of having a lab and publishing, and probably going to get my PhD in a couple years. I might just buy one online, it's cheaper, but whatever. I'll just have it hanging in the lab. Start making people, Dr. Weiner, wear my lab coat all the time. I already got the professor beard. Good. I should stop wearing the psychologist shirt. There's a new shirt with a Freud riding a bicycle. It's a Freudian psychologist. I showed you that? Yeah, that's going to be the next shirt. Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. So what should you pay attention to in the next 4 days? Look at your frickin' email. If you do not check the email that you have set for WebAdvisor, what should you do? Start checking ASAP. Because I will be sending out, if we do have to cancel classes because of the virus, I know, just make sure whatever your WebAdvisor email is, that's the one that I send everything to.